the sunshine.
What's up, guys? I just finished mixing. Hold on, I gotta turn this off now. There we go. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode 41 of Copy Thoughts Podcast. I just finished mixing an acoustic version of my song Pavement, which will be dropping probably next week or the week after. I'll put it up on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, everywhere. And I do want to shoot some kind of visual for it, probably with Nosebleed. So keep a lookout for that, and I'll let you know when that's coming. A couple other updates before I get into the podcast. I'm leaving for tour in like 3 weeks. I'll be flying to the UK from Toronto to start with the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus and Cues What We Aim For. So if you live in the UK and want to come to a show, I would love to see you. I'd love to meet you and hang out. So check out the tour dates below. And there's that. And the SayWeCanFly app is almost done. I mean, it's pretty much done. I'm just kind of waiting to drop it until probably I get back, because I want to finish my Stay Cozy first collection of Stay Cozy. So the line will include shirts, beanies, some jewelry, probably jackets, and some sunglasses too. So I want to do like a whole look, and it's just going to take me some more time to complete that, because I'm making everything myself. So once that's done, I'll put up the SayWeCanFly app, which is going to be really cool. If anybody had the old app, I know it had like 10,000 downloads, so if you still have it, that's awesome. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to like republish it. But it's basically going to be the same kind of format. But the new features are going to be, you can create your own login and your own account. You can have your own profile. You'll have your own inbox so you can talk with other users. And also, there's going to be a section where you can leave me a voice note, like a voicemail. You literally just hit record. It goes right to my inbox, and I can reply with a voice message back. The reason that I'm doing that is because I just, over the years, have kind of gotten worse at typing back to reply to DMs. Like, I'll just open it, and I'll read it. I'll be like, well, I'm going to reply later. And I just don't, you know. So it's a lot easier for me to respond to, especially things like where people need advice. It's really easy. It's a lot easier for me to respond with my voice. So that's kind of why I put that section in, and hopefully people just use it for that. But I just kind of trust that it's going to be fine and it'll be cool. So that's about it, I think. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the idea of non-duality, and how, I guess more so how the things that I've learned, the things that I've kind of talked about on these recent episodes, which I feel like kind of got way more in depth, how these kind of ideas and how philosophy and how spiritual growth, I guess, has affected me, like real life ways that it's affected me and changed my life, changed my worldview. And I kind of want to talk about the importance of growth in that way, in my opinion. Because I think some people, you can kind of live your life and never question a thing, and you can be fine. You can live and die and stay in a bubble, and you know, that has its own value, it has its own thing. And unfortunately, I'm at a point where I can never go back to that now. And it's kind of like, you know, I went to a Christian school for 8 years of my life, so I read the Bible every day and was taught this kind of idea about what God was, and these values and these rules basically to live by. So I had my whole paradigm shaped by this religion. And once I got to a point in my life where I questioned my way out of that, so once I got to the point where I understood it from a different perspective, I can never go back to it. You know what I mean? I can never go back to just being in that one box or that one perspective. It's just once you know something, or once you understand something from a different perspective, you can't really go back to your prior perspective. So in a way, you know, I have some days where I'm just doing my thing, and I wish that I could just I guess look at things from what we would probably call a normal perspective. You know, I really sometimes wish that, because, you know, questioning everything all the time, which is kind of what I tend to do, it does take away from it does take away from the experience of life a little bit, because it's kind of the same as if you went to go see a movie, but the entire movie you were thinking about the fact that it's a movie, you know, or you were thinking about how they shot it, or how they filmed it, or how the projector worked that, you know, you're watching it on. It takes away from the experience, right? You can't just sit there and fully be absorbed into it, because you're you're thinking outside of it. So in that way, it does take away, I think, because I feel like what I've kind of been doing with all these things that I've been, I guess just like, I'll call it researching or studying or whatever, pondering on over the years, is like really deconstructing my reality, deconstructing my reality, deconstructing the way that I see reality. And when you start to do that, it's never going to be the same. You know, once you start to ask questions that can't be answered, it's never the same. Even if you have days where you just completely forget about all of it, which I do. You know, I do have days where I don't think about any of this stuff. I just kind of live my life and I get caught up in the hustle and the problems and whatever else. But there's always this kind of underlying awareness of, wait a minute, like, I still don't know what this is. I still don't know that I even exist. I don't know that anybody's real. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know anything. Sorry, my mom just tried to call me. So there's always kind of this underlying awareness of there's something going on here, you know. So once you start to do that, it is kind of scary, and it does get a bit overwhelming sometimes. And again, this is not to say that I have answers. You know, this is not to say that I know the truth or I know what's going on. This is just to say that I've asked questions to myself and, you know, thought of things that like I can't answer. So in a way that just makes me feel like nothing really does have any logical foundation. And the only way that it can feel like it does is if you just ignore the fact that there's no logical basis for anything really. And there's no way to find a you. There's no way to really find like a solid, tangible self, you know. There's not. And the reason I say that is because, you know, there's this body that's talking to you right now. There's this body and these words coming out. But if I was wholly, totally my body, then I wouldn't know that there's a body doing this. Because I think to understand that, you have to have an awareness that goes beyond that, which to me means that the body is not you. It's not me, because I'm able to look at it from an outside perspective, which makes no sense, but that's just how it is. But then there's also the fact that I know that I'm able to look at it from an outside perspective, and that I know that I'm able to do that. So it's just this kind of continuous keeps on going. And ultimately, I think when something really has no end, you know, because there always has to be an outside. It's infinite, which also means that it's just a circle, it's just a loop. So at the end of the day, that kind of means that it's also nothing, because it has no beginning, no end. It's not finite, you know. And if we were to say that it's finite, it would still be infinite, because for something to be finite, it has to be limited by something else. And that it's just, you know, something I can't really get out of my mind. I just can't. And it's like the same thing with anything in reality. It's like it just keeps going and going and going and going infinitely, because there's no way to answer it. And maybe there is, but the way that we look at things as human beings is from a linear point of view. So whatever the answer is, I don't think we can comprehend it. So let me just take a sip of coffee and get back on track here. So I just kind of want to share how kind of going down this path has actually been affecting my life, positive and negative ways. So I think on a positive note, questioning things and starting to see and understand that nothing is really separate from anything else, even if it appears to be. You know, for example, if we were standing in the same room having a conversation, and I'm only speaking from my perspective because that's all I know, that's all I have. You would appear to be a separate individual. You know, you would appear to be your own thing, your own person, your own thing. But the problem is, the reason that I say I don't believe that that's true is because you are still happening within my field of consciousness. You are still happening within my perception. So if you were not in my perception, you would not exist. And if the argument could be, well, yes, I would. But the problem is, if you weren't in my field of consciousness, and let's just say wherever you are right now, at home, and you're not here, and I'm not thinking about you, you are a concept. You're an idea. You don't really exist as anything more than that. And neither do I. You know, when you stop this video and go on and do your thing, do your laundry and go to bed, I don't really exist anymore. I'm just an idea, just a concept. But the thing is, so it's like nothing really exists until it's within your field of consciousness, whether that's mental or physical. So at the end of the day, it's like everything that you're experiencing is you and depends on you and depends on you observing it in order for it to exist. So this shit is really hard to articulate, but there's also the idea that you know, when and I've said this a couple times, but I think it's really important, and it's like really, like, the implications of this shit are insane, and it's easy to just like say it and I was like, oh, that's trippy, and just forget about it. But really think about this. When you dream, you know, when you have a dream and you meet people in your dream and you talk to somebody in your dream. Let's just pick an easy example. So your best friend, whoever that is, you have a dream. They come over to your house, you chill. They tell you about something that happened in their life, and you're playing video games, all right? And you have this whole awesome conversation. You wake up, and you know, they obviously didn't come over in this waking reality, and that was just a dream. Okay, but you generated that entire conversation, right? Like, that happened in your dream while you were asleep. So you generated them coming to your house. You generated them as a separate person. You generated how they looked, how they talked, their entire personality, all their traits. That was generated by you, by your consciousness, okay? And it feels just as real as if they came over today in real life. So when you really think about that, like, how is that any different? How can that be any different? Like, how could you ever know that that's not the case right now? You know, you can't. Like, I think no matter what logical conclusion you came to, you would still just not know. Because in the dream, you don't know that you're doing that until you wake up and are able to look at it as a dream. So even if we believed that we figured it out, you know, who's to say that, like, we just can't know because it's happening right now and we're currently in this dream. And so that's another thing that's, I think, kind of tripped me out. But going further into that idea, because I think that kind of is a part of, like, non-duality. Think about this, though. The fundamental thing that every human, every animal, every inanimate object has in common is consciousness. You know, whether it's on the level that we have as humans or just simply like a rock. You know, it's still alive. You know, it still has some form of intelligence, whether it's great or small. It still exists in this reality, so therefore it has some kind of consciousness. So it's like the one fundamental thing that everything has in common is consciousness, and especially with human beings, because of the level that we're at and the self-awareness that we have. There's a way that I can explain this. It's really hard to do. But if you picture, honestly, it's the most cliche example, but it's such a good example. The ocean, you know, just picture the ocean, okay? The ocean creates waves, so the waves are an action of the ocean. The waves are a spawn of the ocean, whatever. And every wave, you know, you could sit on the beach and like say, oh, there's a big wave coming, like, there's a small wave, and they all kind of appear to have their own thing, and they have their own different traits and different appearances, and they all look like, oh, there's a wave, there's a separate wave, right? And the interesting thing is that they are, depending how you're looking at it, they are their own individual thing, but at the same time, they are always the ocean. They are always the entire ocean as well. Okay? So depending what perspective you have, they are both at the same time. So I feel because we all have consciousness in common, that it's very similar to that. I feel that consciousness behind us, behind each of us, behind everything, is one thing that has all these different fingers, you know, which is each one of us, a tree, a cat, a dog. It's all these different, so it's like this hand, you know, this is me, this is you, this is a tree, this is a building, but it's all attached to this body, you know, this body of consciousness. And the reason that I feel that makes sense is because you can't really question your way out of that. Like, you can't really find a finite, tangible self Like, if there was a way to be like, this is me, like, this is me. If you could pinpoint your consciousness and you could pinpoint, you know, your awareness, then that would be a different story. But can you do that? Like, really try to do that. Like, sit there and close your eyes and try to find, like, where am I? You can't, because you're everywhere. You know, you, like, when you look at a wall, you are that wall as well, because you're aware of it, you're conscious of it. You can move your awareness to the wall. You know, you are also the wall. And when you close your eyes especially, there's just this blackness, and it's like, can you find a physical location for yourself? Even if you were to say, well, it's right where my body is, it's like, okay, well, what about the fact that you are still aware of the space that's in front and behind you and everywhere else? So it just feels like there's no solid place. So anyway, I just feel like there's a lot of things that kind of, at least for me, make me feel like that is the case. Again, I can only speak from my perspective, you know, because at the end of the day, I don't know that you even have your own consciousness. I don't know that you are actually experiencing life and that you're not just a figment of my imagination. I don't know that. And, you know, if you are, and this is true, then you don't know that I am not just a figment of your imagination, because I would not exist if you did not exist. In order for me to exist, you need to be aware of me, and you need to be observing me. And the entire universe depends on you observing it. Because we can sit there and say, well, after I die, you know, the universe is still going to exist and people are going to live. But here's the thing, like, no, it won't. It won't. It can't. Because all you have is your perception. All you have is your experience. And everything that else that you think is there is still only happening within your experience of reality. So me, you know, like, the entire world is only happening in your experience. So when you're gone, it's gone. Does that make sense? But anyway, I think the biggest thing for me, I'm sorry that if I'm not doing a good job explaining this, it is really hard to articulate, and I feel like it's gonna take me years to be able to properly actually, like, say it and piece it together in a way that you could, like, logically be like, oh yes, this makes sense. Because I'm still learning and I'm still trying to understand it, but it's just these ideas that kind of have planted themselves in me and are literally have changed the way that I see everything. And it's like starting to deconstruct reality for me in the way that everything that I was taught from when I was a child takes all of that for granted. And you can't. I mean, you can just ignore it. You can just ignore all of these things, and you can ignore everything and just stay in a bubble. But now that I've kind of started to you know, push my way out of that and look at things differently, I can't go back. So in a way, because I have really started to feel, because of these questions that I can't answer, that everything is just part of me, and everything is part of you, and everything is just one thing. Because if you try to have something outside of this, it's still inside of this, because it's within this experience. So if you said, like, something is outside of reality, it's still within you saying that. It's still within the reality of you being able to know it's outside. So therefore it is still within. So I just feel like it's this endless kind of thing. So I think the idea of everything being one, the idea of all of your friends, all of your family, just being you. And I say you as in not your name and your story and the self that we have, you know, I'm saying the consciousness behind that. The one thing that is there. The one thing that everything is a part of. As you, is what I'm saying. So for me, it's like starting to understand that or feel that. Because I feel that. It's not just like I think about it and I'm like, oh, that's true. I feel it. The more that I do ponder on it and the more that I look at things that way, it makes so much sense to me. And I could be so fucking far off that I'll never know, and maybe we're just so deep into this, like, illusion of shit that we just can never get out. But to me, the idea of that makes more sense, because I can't separate you from me. I can't separate anything from myself, because it's all only happening within my experience. So therefore it is also me. So the idea of this is almost like the kind of visual that I have for it is a man in a room, okay, just white or room that just is infinite on all sides. And he's sitting on the floor completely by himself. He is the only thing that exists. And he has this set of toy cars or toy trains or like a toy village. And he's been sitting there alone for millions and millions and millions of years, forever, for infinity. There's no start, no end. It's just there. And he gets to the point where he's starts playing with these toys, you know, playing with these trains, these little plastic figures. And he does it for so long that he believes that they're real. You know, he can have a conversation with this little doll, and it talks back to him because he's so absorbed in the story of it. And it appears to be real. It appears to be a separate thing, but at the end of the day, it's just him talking to himself. So that, in my mind, is kind of the way that I view God, or view consciousness, is what it's doing, as manifesting itself as us, as you, as me, as your mom, as your dad, as Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, fucking Johnny Depp, entertaining itself and constantly just tricking itself and having conversations with itself and telling stories and, you know, fucking scaring itself and jumping at itself, like. And for me, like, the realization of this, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't believe it, because I do. If that's not something that you vibe with or you've come to, that's totally fine. I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. I'm just here to share this, because I do believe that. And well, as far as like what feels most real to me is that. So the realization of this to me, again, I still have many days, many hours out of the day where I don't think about any of this. You know, I'm not at the point where this is like complete base perspective for me. It's still, you know, something that I have to kind of remind myself of, and will just kind of show up randomly during the day. So I do still have this kind of like, I'm living in the little human bubble, and that's cool. But the ultimate kind of awareness of this, like, for what I've come to, it's created this immense loneliness. And I'm going to try to explain this because it's something that's been on my mind and I wanted to say. It's created this immense loneliness because you realize that nobody's really real. Nothing's really real. It's all just you. You know, it's all just, I'm not talking about you as your individual ego. I'm talking about the consciousness that you are. It's just you. That's it. I'm just you. Everything that you've ever experienced is just you. So it's this immense loneliness because you know at the end of the day, as much as it's tricked itself, or you've tricked yourself into believing that people are other people, it's not. They're not. And in a way they don't really exist because it's just you. So the realization of that creates the fucking most immense loneliness ever. And I'm still kind of going through that, but like I went through like a week or at least a couple days, man, where I was just like fucking, I don't know how to explain it, just really sank in, you know, it really hit me. And again, I think people can sit there and say like, no, that's not true, blah, 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 but like, I don't think, like, I can't find a logical way to disprove that. I can't. And if I could, then that would probably change things, but at the end of the day, even if I did, that would still only be relative to this experience. So it doesn't really help anything, because any conclusion that any science we do, any fucking questions we have, any answers we have are still only within the puzzle itself. So it doesn't really help. So anyway, so what I was saying is just like it's created this kind of loneliness of like, damn, okay, like this is it. I'm the only one here. You know, this consciousness that I am, this consciousness that you are, it's just me. It's just us. And us as in like not really us, but it, you know, it's just, I'm saying like each of us is that. So this immense loneliness of knowing that everything in your life and everybody in your life is really just you, but also this kind of peace, because that also means that nothing really is that big of a deal, and nothing is really, you know, nothing is really that big of a deal because it's also just you. All the problems you have, you know, it's you. And if you can kind of understand that, or like come to a place where you can find that balance, it makes life like really cool. Like, it's really fucking cool, because at the same time you start to like have more love for things. You kind of start to worry less. At least that's what's happened to me like over the last while. Like, I'm just starting to like, you know, I just see people, I just see everybody as like an aspect of me, and it makes me love people more. You know, it actually does. It makes me like just love people more, because I'm like, yo, that's, you know, that's me. And even if I'm full of shit and like you're actually not, we're not all this one consciousness, you're still happening within my experience. So like, you are me, you know, you are so close to me, and I love you for that. You know, when you start to think of those things, it doesn't matter who people are, like, you just feel compassion. And let me just get some coffee here. Anyway, I don't know, I think this is something that this is a path that I have, for whatever reason, been kind of called down, and I don't think this really has any effects on what I do with music. I think if anything, it affects it and is going to affect it in a positive way the more that I try to go down this path of, really know what the fuck to call it, but you know, as you guys can see, like, I'm still trying to question things, and if you follow my podcast especially, like, I feel like I've, you know, made some progress as far as like what I understood before and what I understand now, but there's just so much more that I want to do, and maybe maybe I'm searching for a truth that can't be found, and maybe that's the truth. But the more that I do question these things, and the more that I apply these things to my life, it literally changes the entire experience of life. So it's not like I'm just thinking about this and then go on with my day. No, it literally rewires things, and it reconstructs reality in a different way. So it is like a tangible change that I experience. So I do want to continue down this path, and I feel that the more we can, I don't know, I feel like in a way, I feel like if everybody did understand that everything is a part of themselves, at the very least, everyone else is happening within your perception. Like, why would you want to fucking hurt somebody? Why would you want to fucking kill somebody? Why would you want to cause harm to somebody? That comes from believing that we're separate from other people. That comes from like, oh, this person did this, you know, fuck this person, like, blah, blah. Like, that comes from the solid belief for a fact that somebody else is a completely separate entity than you. So I just feel like it's, for me at least, important, and part of what I feel like I'm being called to do is try to understand these ideas as much as I can and share them. Because again, I'm not religious. I don't fucking, you know, hold myself to a set of beliefs and rules. I'm really open, and I don't feel like this is a religious thing. I just feel like this is like understanding being, and trying to have a different perspective on reality and on everything. So I just want to try to build that as much as I can, because I feel like that also has helped me create music and have ideas, and just you know, just be more creative and more open. And I don't know, it's really important to me. So I know this was kind of a heavy episode. Hopefully it made sense. And again, I know you know, I just sometimes think like for whatever reason, you know, I was given the gift of being a musician. You know, I didn't choose that. I didn't choose to have the creative ability that I have. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how to explain it. It's just there, and I don't know how the fuck sometimes, like, I'm able to just sit down and make something just because I know what I want to make, and I can't, like, it's not like a logical thing that I can explain to you. And because people say like, oh, you're so talented, or like your creative ability is amazing, it's like, I don't even fucking know where it comes from. It's not like I sat down one day and was like, hey, I'm gonna have this creative ability to like write songs, fucking mix songs, record songs, shoot music videos, write music videos, play shows, you know, make a podcast, like any of that shit. Like, I didn't choose that. So for whatever reason, I was given that gift, and the gift of people reacting to that and responding to that, and like following my life, and you know, watching my stuff and listening to my songs. Like, I was given that privilege. So I feel like I want to try my best to use that position, and I think I've always kind of tried my best to do that, but like for more than just like, oh, let's fucking put out a music video and get views and like get people to listen, like that's really not that important to me, and sometimes I wish that it was, because I feel like that's part of the reason I haven't like grown more in that regard, but it's just not. Like, it's just really, the only thing that is really important to me is making stuff and, you know, sharing with people who want to hear it. Like, I don't sit there and I'm like, oh, this song's gonna fucking blow up. I need this song to blow up. Like, I don't care. Like, and it's, again, I used to care. And I think that was part of the reason, like, I got this, like, spurt at the beginning because I wanted that shit so bad. But, like, I'm just at a point now where I just wanted to grow and use whatever position I have as far as, like, people following me to help people and to help people understand themselves better, because I feel like when you question things, you also understand your emotions and your anxieties and your depression and why life fucking sucks sometimes and why things hurt so badly. Like, you understand all that stuff from a different perspective. So anyway, I don't know, I feel like this has just become really important to me. And again, nothing to do with music. Like, I love waking up and making music. I'm always going to do that. But I feel like it kind of fuels it a little bit too. And, you know, writing this screenplay that I've been writing with my friend Micah, like a full-length movie, we're making, like, some serious progress on it. And it's this story that I feel like says a lot. And some of these ideas are written into it too. So I want to try to express these things in creative forms as well, and just share what I can, you know, as much as I possibly can. So anyway, yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know if that made any sense. I hope it did. But thank you for watching. I know these are long. I was actually watching a Joe Rogan podcast last night. Or no, H3 podcast. That was Jordan Peterson. He was on there, and they were talking about how it's amazing that, like, Jordan Peterson, his lectures are super long, but they get millions of views and they get hundreds of thousands of views. Like, it's just cool that some people actually want to, like, listen to difficult things, you know, and like listen the whole way through and actually take the time to do that. And, like, that's something that I love to do. Like, I love sitting there and watching an hour and a half podcast, listening to, like, a fucking sometimes 2-hour podcast or lecture about oneness or self-deception or, like, anything like that's difficult. Like, I love that, and it's cool that some people like that. So if you have made it this far into the podcast, like, you are one of those people, and I think that's amazing. I just want to say thank you, because I know some people probably just, like, don't want to take the time to do that, which is fine too, but because it took me a while to get to that point where I wanted to do that. So I just want to say thank you if you've watched this whole thing. So I think that's about it, guys. I should probably edit this because it's probably going to be late because it's already 6 and I haven't even edited it. So I might actually have to put this out on Thursday. But doing my best here, and I'm going to make a backlog of these for when I'm on tour, so I'll have an episode out every week still when I'm on the road. So yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love you. And stay cozy. Stay cozy. All right, I'll talk to you soon. See you next week. Peace.